everybody, and happy July. Almost 4th of July. We were kind of talking ahead of time of a lot of people have maybe already started their their holiday celebrations for the week. So we're glad that you all could join us here for Windows on Waterloo this month. We're really excited about it. We'll give it a couple of minutes here just in case anybody's still logging in here a little after 11. But yeah, hope everybody is having a great day, great month so far, and maybe has some fun plans for the week. I haven't even looked at the weather to know whether it's supposed to be nice for people's usual plans or not. But this holiday always kind of sneaks up on me. Things at the beginning of the month always do that for me. And now it's like my anniversary is the first week of the month. My daughter's birthday is the first week of the month. So I'm really not, I don't have a good excuse for it anymore. If I actually have things I need to keep track of at the beginning of months, but I'm not good at it. All right, I think that we will just go ahead and get started here, and I'll keep letting people in as they trickle in. But official kind of good morning, everybody, and thanks so much for being here. My name is Paige Price. I'm the program manager with the Waterloo Community Foundation and host our monthly Windows on Waterloo presentations here. And these are really just a space for us to offer a platform about the good work that's being done in our city, new and interesting, and all of that different kind of stuff. And so we're excited that you're here. We host them on the first Wednesday of every month, so hopefully we can see you back again sometime in the future months. But today we have the pleasure of welcoming Meredith Perks with Vanderwall and Associates. She is going to be sharing about the progress and the revitalization that's happening here in our downtown Waterloo. And we are so thrilled about all of the progress that's been happening. Now with our new office down here, we really get to be a part of it too, where we get to see this all happening in real time, and we get to enjoy this beautiful downtown office space that was a shoe store back in the day. So it's fun to be part of the action too. And we know what Meredith is going to share about today is one part of all of that, right? There have been so many different stakeholders and individuals and organizations that have really been investing in this progress for a long time now. And so we're so grateful for all of that and excited to learn more about a part of it today. So we do hope to have time at the end of Meredith's presentation for question and answers. So feel free to type those into the chat box as we go, and we'll address them at the end. Or at the end of her presentation, you can also unmute yourself and ask questions then. But with that, I am going to pass things over to Meredith.
Great. Thank you very much, Paige. I appreciate it. Let me just start sharing my screen and we can get into the presentation. All right. Is everybody seeing that okay and can hear me all right? Great. So thank you again. So as Paige said, my name is Meredith Perks. I'm an associate planner with Vanderwall and Associates. Vanderwall and Associates has been working and assisting the City of Waterloo and Waterloo Development Corporation and other Waterloo partners for nearly 20 years, working on the revitalization and long-term planning of particularly downtown Waterloo. So I'm really excited to be here with you this morning to share some of the formula that has made Waterloo successful at downtown revitalization, tell a bit of that story, and highlight key accomplishments. Just want to take a moment to thank the Waterloo Community Foundation for the invitation to be here with you this morning and to share this information, to Mayor Hart and the City of Waterloo staff, as well as Waterloo Development Corporation Board of Directors for their assistance, in doing this work, or this is their work. So for letting me tell a bit of the story today and helping me assemble some information for the presentation. So just kind of a run through of what I plan to talk about. So I'll give you a little background on Van Wall and Associates and who we are, how we came to be in Waterloo, and then jump into the work, sharing some of the history of revitalization in downtown, what downtown goals and visions for revitalization are, and kind of focus the most of the presentation on some of the key projects and accomplishments that have happened over the last 17, 20, 25 years, depending on kind of where you start the timeline. So talking about some really huge accomplishments, and then getting into that formula of what makes it successful, highlighting the public-private partnership. You're going to hear me say that word a lot in this presentation because it really is critical to the success and it's got fingerprints and is a key part of pretty much all of the accomplishments that we're going to highlight today. And then the keys to success in that formula and a bit of downtown into the future, where we see things going or how we kind of see moving forward in kind of trying to accomplish some of that work that's still, yet to do. So a bit about Van Wall and Associates. We are an urban planning, landscape, and urban design and economic development firm based in Madison and Milwaukee. I'm in our Milwaukee office, and we were founded by our president, Brian Van de Wall, over 40 years ago, and he's been an active leader of our Waterloo work for over 20 years. He has a long history and experience in Iowa and in the Quad Cities and working with Deere and Company and other entities and in the city of Moline. And so he has a long history in the area, in the state, and then specifically working in Waterloo. And so he is still active in this project, and he may have jumped on the call already or might over the course, I didn't quite see, but yeah, he is a key part of our company and of our work in Waterloo in particular. A lot of his ideas and vision are in the work that we do. So Van Wall and Associates is unique in a lot of ways. We don't have an engineering or architecture arm of our practice. We are truly focused on planning and advancing sound planning practices, redevelopment, economic revitalization, and that sort of thing. With that, we're about 25 people, which makes us one of the larger planning only firms out there. But our staff is pretty diverse. We have a wide, sort of a deep bench, if you will, of knowledge and skills and expertise. We do, as I said, urban design, so can help, conceptualize buildings and urban spaces. We have landscape architects, planners, real estate professionals, and the way we approach a project and a client like Waterloo is that it's a full team approach for our firm. So Brian and I might be the most consistent staff working with Waterloo and with the city and WDC and things, but we tap into our colleagues constantly for their expertise so that each time we bring our clients, just the full breadth of our experience. So our urban designers are particularly active with Waterloo, doing a lot of conceptual designs and things like that. So we have a lot of skills for not being a particularly large firm. We focus our work in the Midwest, and that's another kind of important factor to our work. We have, dozens of clients across the Midwest. You can kind of see those dots on the map there of where we work. That's probably just a sampling. And then many of our clients are long-term. We really value those relationships, and we see ourselves as partners with our clients and an extension of their staff. So their goals are our goals, and we try and work with them. We're not consultants that sort of just drop in, make recommendations and leave and don't know how those worked out and don't really care. We get to know our communities very well, and we're invested in their future. So that is something I really like about the work that I do. And it's this experience and perspective with all these clients around the Midwest that we really understand how downtown planning works. We see what works in other communities or what we try there, and we bring those ideas to Waterloo and look and see if they would work here. And a lot of times too, we are doing cool, innovative things in Waterloo that we're able to share with other clients and ideas. So it's a kind of a two-way street there. And there have been a lot of big accomplishments in Waterloo that, apply to other communities and that they can learn from too. So a little bit about me specifically. I've been with Van de Waal and Associates about 6 years ago, which is probably when that picture was taken and my hair was very different. But about 6 and almost going on 7 years. And I've been working on the Waterloo project. So with the city and WDC and other partners for about 3 years plus, but our team with Brian sort of being a consistent thread throughout has been in the community for much longer. I'm an associate planner. I have a master's in urban planning and policy, and I've had some political and government background prior to planning. And for me, I grew up on the East Coast, but I've spent, my full career and sort of background of my adult life in the Midwest. And I come from sort of in that Midwestern background, kind of come from Northern Indiana and South Bend. And I see a lot of connections between Waterloo and South Bend. And I get really excited about working in Waterloo for that reason. It's just I really see the potential in our Midwestern mid-sized cities. And like to recognize, the great strides that have already been made and just all the potential that is really there for the future. So I'm very passionate about activating downtowns and just happy to talk about this work. But that's a bit about our background and our history with Waterloo. So to start off the discussion, talking about downtown Waterloo kind of specifically, wanted to start by sharing some history of planning in downtown Waterloo or planning for downtown. It can be easy to forget or not realize just how far back Waterloo has been focused on and planning for the revitalization of downtown. There have been numerous plans, as you can see in this list, that have identified goals, and this is just a sample, but that have identified goals and potential projects for Waterloo. These plans are used to create vision. They're used to leverage and secure state and federal and private funding. And I think that the city and the community of Waterloo has been very successful in that area and using its plans and its vision to bring in funding and help implement projects. So you can see one of the ones to start highlighting is the Waterloo Millennium Plan from 1999. And you'll notice too that these efforts transcend administrations and politics and particular leaders. So there's a history of great leadership in Waterloo in the public and private sector that have brought these plans into implementation, but you can kind of see that this is not a new idea and one administration taking it on, but a legacy across many administrations. So we have the Millennium Plan that helped roll into and set the stage for the Downtown Redevelopment Master Plan in 2000. And with that, the creation of WDC or Waterloo Development Corporation. And that was a really key development. It's a type of planning, right? WDC isn't a document, it's a group, it's a volunteer nonprofit of private and public sector leaders that are focused on driving and supporting revitalization of downtown and implementing a master plan and having an active group that kind of can keep accountable to a plan and move a plan forward is one of the things that makes planning successful and sustainable. And you aren't one of those communities that puts in work to create a plan and has it, sit on a shelf or these concepts don't go anywhere. So the partnership of WDC, who works very closely with the city on many things, is a key part of advancing downtown redevelopment. And we work with WDC directly as well, sort of trying to facilitate that partnership and crafting, as you'll see there, it takes sort of a creative approach to redevelopment between this partnership. So we work with both the city and WDC to advance these goals. So one of the other highlights here, you'll see, and so is in 2004, we have Vision Iowa Awards, IEDA Awards, and in 2006, private donation or private company leadership with Deere and Company. They had a key role in creating WDC, but also their donation of 17 million in land, buildings, and financial support was a really key catalyst for the TechWorks property specifically, but just generally downtown as well. So it was really important for them. And I think it speaks to more of that partnership concept where the private sector sees the importance of downtown, of the community of Waterloo at a whole, and the importance of investing in the community to stay and be part of the community as a corporate neighbor, but also, for their recruitment and retention of their employees. These investments are really important to them. So that was a really critical moment in downtown revitalization history as well as partnership with Black Hawk County Gaming Association in the city when the new casino was being built. It was really important that with this new investment in the community that downtown was also able to continue to be a destination and it wasn't become a lopsided economic impact. And so you can see kind of, I guess, through this list of efforts that it continues to this day. So most recently, there was the Waterloo 2030 Vision Plan, and that has 8 key areas, including a power up downtown and other focus areas that drive revitalization. So from the 1999 Millennium Plan through to Vision 2030, there have been really important plans and achievements that have helped set the vision for Waterloo, downtown Waterloo, and drive that revitalization and reinvestment. So from these plans, what plans really help provide is goals and a foundation and a framework that the members of the community can work from. So from these plans, we've identified, or we, as a community, identify a number of revitalization goals for downtown. And this kind of helps make the community make decisions about investments and what it wants its future to be and how to get there. So some of the goals are about creating new investment opportunities in downtown and increasing tax base. So making sure that it's an economically vibrant and active downtown, that there's cleanup of blighted properties. And there are properties, blight has a lot of different definitions, and it's not exclusively negative or judgmental about it. It's just, it can be from, building conditions to an inappropriate use. Maybe it's kind of called economic blight when there are uses in an area like industrial that shouldn't really be in an urban downtown. They should be in an industrial park where they have better access to land and resources and transportation that they need. Whereas a downtown is meant for being, walkable and things like that. So cleaning up blighted property or removing inappropriate property or transforming inappropriate property may be more likely because it doesn't necessarily involve demolition. It can be revitalization and redevelopment. Creating new destinations and just revitalizing the energy and improving the reputation of downtown and increasing quality of life. So hopefully as we go through the next kind of phase of projects and part of the discussion about projects, you'll see how those projects connect back to these goals. And I guess one other thing to highlight out of these plans is from goals and vision is we have focus areas identified. And I think of the focus areas as where sort of the vision meets the opportunity and what we're looking for in opportunities, whether that's, finding projects, redevelopment sites that become available, changes in the market that implement our goals. It's a way of staying strategic about weighing different projects and not being adrift with our goals, but being focused in how we try to apply them and what types of projects we try to implement. So a few of our focus areas, I think you'll see connecting to these projects as well is activating the Cedar River, repurposing the TechWorks site, eliminating blight, and focusing on gathering spaces, sports, entertainment, recreation. And those are the type of placemaking investments that really improve quality of life and improve reputation and attract people to downtown. I think that is really what a lot of these get at. It's about bringing people downtown and having the infrastructure to support them there. So, and then the last one is developer recruitment, which is sort of in the technical side of redevelopment, but it's about it's really important because it's about taking a proactive approach to redevelopment and finding partners that you can work with that will meet your standards. So we'll talk about sort of all of those as we go, but these focus areas you'll see are where we kind of try to have the goals meet the opportunities in the market areas. So I think what we really want to do is kind of, like I said, for this presentation is showcase how far Waterloo has come. When you live in a community, I think it can, I feel that way about my own community, or we see it a lot in many of our clients. It can be hard when you live there, it can be hard to see the change, especially when it's happening kind of incrementally, maybe block by block, or it happens over a long period of time. You look around and maybe you don't realize how far you've come. But you know, in conversations when I'm in Waterloo or in feedback I get from the city, you know, I've heard from many that people, you know, who grew up here in Waterloo but moved away and came back for something have been really impressed about how the downtown has changed, or how different downtown feels. And so it's kind of feedback from people who sort of go away and come back and see the change all at once. That's really impactful when sometimes when you're in it, you don't notice it happening. So we'll try and showcase some of those projects. So first, kind of remind us of where we started. So here is an image of Waterloo, downtown Waterloo, about 17 years ago. And so you can see that maybe right away that there's some familiar landmarks and buildings and spaces that are not there because they haven't been built yet or haven't been transformed yet. You can see there are areas that are sort of underutilized, where there maybe are inappropriate uses for an urban downtown. There's, like I said, sort of maybe industrial or the wrong, you know, kind of wrong kinds of businesses for this type of area that should be in a different space that's more appropriate for them. There's some buildings in poor condition. It was, you know, this is coming out of or going into some challenging economic times. Waterloo was not unique in its experience of having economic, you know, decline or changes in industrialization and all that thing that impacted communities across the country. So maybe there were some buildings in poor condition. There was a sort of underutilized highway presence in downtown, about showcasing to people driving by what was in downtown and why they should get off the highway and visit. And there's just a lack of recreation or showcasing the river, really. It was a much more industrial mindset about the river, thinking of it as a way to maybe dispose of things or move things, or not really a place for people. And so as you'll see as we go through these things, revitalization is really about making sure downtown is a place for people. So here is a photo of Waterloo in 2023. So I'm going to walk through and show you, just kind of start highlighting some of these projects that have been accomplished over the last 17 years, but hopefully you can kind of immediately see the change in the physical landscape between the two photos. And as kind of mentioned before, this doesn't, go back a sec, this doesn't capture every investment that's been made in this process. So definitely recognize that there have been private investments by small business owners and property owners, and other changes that aren't captured here. I'm kind of focusing on the more public or the public-private partnership accomplishments, but I just want to recognize so many different people have a hand in this, and this is not an exhaustive list, but also sort of see that public investment can spur and inspire private investment. So when the city or the community takes the lead in making an investment in downtown, the goal is to see private investment follow. So starting in 2008, you start to see some major public space and public use investments, like the Youth Pavilion, the Expo grounds, just the entire River Loop project, so the trails and Riverwalk system. There's improvements to the historic structure of the public market, and the development and creation of the River Loop amphitheater. By 2014, so about 7 years into that picture's transformation, there's the Cedar Valley Sportsworks, Sportsplex, a huge community asset that transformed really this entire block, and gave that highway visibility that the community needed to see a beautiful public building along the highway. There's the TechWorks building, industrial incubator space, and so Tech One kind of transformation, the John Deere Tractor and Engine Museum, starting to see, and probably as a result of these public investments, as I said, residential investment with Grand Crossing being a huge blight elimination opportunity and creating a mixed use housing development there that's into phase, been very successful, into phase 2 even. The kind of award-winning and just sort of just an absolute model for other communities of a renovation of a historic industrial building into a high quality hotel with the Courtyard Marriott. Private investment for a new, or public and private investment for a new business with single speed. Then bringing in education as well and institutional uses, Hawkeye Community College, some more residential with the art block. And then coming into the very recent past, there's been efforts on redevelopment of some commercial spaces. So you see conceptual plan development, property acquisition of dilapidated buildings, and potential for reuse there, and site remediation in preparation for future redevelopment. So what you hopefully see is there's just been a huge breadth of projects, a really impressive number of projects in a relatively short amount of time, considering how redevelopment works. This is a really short time frame for this level of transformation. And I think the other thing I hope you notice is the variety of projects that are represented here. So there's commercial investment, there is public community investment, higher education, economic development and workforce and training, and with the incubator, hospitality, what else? Historic revitalization, all sorts of things. And then the last one, hadn't clicked through yet, is the River Lights project, which is public art and a unifying public identity project. So a really impactful slide, hopefully, for you of all of the things that have been accomplished. But again, not everything, because there's others out there. So to dig a little deeper into a few projects, I thought it might be helpful to sort of highlight some of these transformational projects and provide a little bit of context for how they came about, how they contribute to the revitalization of downtown. So the River Loop Expo and Amphitheater, they fit into the larger context. As we saw, there's other River Loop projects in the downtown, right? So there's the river walk and trail system, and it was part of this river renaissance plan, and that included infrastructure improvements, critical stormwater and civil infrastructure improvements. And it was sort of a result of the 2008 flooding, and that they the city and others started to pursue these opportunities. The River Loop and the way that these projects come together is really a remarkable vision on the part of the community, because it was trying to address flooding. And sometimes when you have a really critical need like that, an infrastructure need, you can just focus on the infrastructure and build a new levee and build a new bridge or build a new road, like whatever you might need. But the Waterloo took the opportunity to take that critical infrastructure improvement that was necessary and add in and make it really for people and for the community by also creating spaces that were for community gathering, as a place to celebrate, as a place to be active, and kind of reorient the community towards the river in a different way by being able to utilize it, being able to enjoy it. So with that river renaissance plan and that kind of unique vision of not just trying to address infrastructure needs, but to make a new community space, the city really told a compelling story, and they were able to attract state and federal dollars. So in that list of accomplishments or history of planning before, we saw Iowa Great Places and Vision Iowa funds going into these projects, among other funding sources. So a real accomplishment in thinking bigger than just your immediate needs, but how to solve a problem like flooding in a way that is also oriented towards people and creates a brand new asset. So I think the city and WDC and other partners working on this project knew that addressing the goal of downtown gathering spaces also has economic impacts. It's bringing people to the community, it's supporting businesses, and it's creating tax base. So kind of accomplish when you take this outlook and you take this approach, you accomplish many benefits on a project versus just one, as I mentioned. So there was removal of blight, there was improving the urban design of the downtown, improving the walkability, and making, like I said, the river a real asset rather than just a thing you have to cross to get to the other side of town. So with this one, I think especially trying to pause a second and think a bit about how many great gatherings and events and community opportunities this space has provided Waterloo in the last, since it was built in the last 10 years or so. And it's probably hard to imagine Waterloo not having this now, but it wasn't always there. So I think you just sort of look at that as a community and feel proud about this space that you created and how you use it, because that's the other thing. It's really important that these spaces are programmed, are used, and become sort of enmeshed in the community. So, shout out to all the groups that program these spaces, like, Main Street and the city, and probably countless others that use these spaces, because that's the other thing. I know I'm talking to Iowans here, and if you build it, they will come, which is like my favorite movie ever, but sometimes people don't come. You do have to put in a little work after you've built something to make it successful. And I think this is an example of a place that the community then took ownership of a built space and made it successful. So shifting a little bit to the downtown residential focus, residential is really critical to a vibrant downtown. You need to have people living in downtown to literally give it life. People in downtown at all hours of the day make a space feel more alive, safer, more exciting. You want to know what they're doing and why they're there. There must be something cool happening. So residential is a really important part of that. And you can kind of try and think of maybe times you've visited other cities or a really big city that has like a financial district, and you go there after work hours and it's dead, and how weird that feels. And it kind of feels like everything's emptied out. So having residential mixed in with commercial and public space is very important. So attracting residential was a key goal for downtown revitalization. Residential also provides the population that is needed to attract commercial businesses to downtown. A lot of times, especially retailers or commercial businesses like grocery stores or restaurants and things like that, they want to understand how many rooftops are in their immediate area. How accessible will their business be to groups of people, their customers? And so having residential right in downtown provides that market for commercial. So they go hand in hand. And so just trying to really emphasize how important it is to have residential in a downtown. So these two projects that I'll highlight, Grand Crossing and Art Block, are just two examples. And they really make Waterloo a bit more of a modern downtown by introducing these mixed use and high quality, dense residential projects. So Grand Crossing came to be in about 2016, and it's now kind of had two phases of completion. And it was really a catalytic site or a catalytic driver for downtown redevelopment. And when we talk about catalytic sites, what we mean is it was the right project at the right time for the right market, and it helps spur more development or more investment by creating a market. So Grand Crossing, as you are probably familiar, has been very successful. It has very high occupancy rates, has successful commercial tenants with local and national businesses. Getting a local business into these spaces can be really challenging for communities, but you have a great tenant there with Sidecar. And then institutional and healthcare use as well. So another sort of anchor that helps solidify the mixed use component of the development, and it has potential for future phases as well. So it's not complete. As you know, there's just opportunity for more. And the other, reason we see this as a catalytic site is because at the time that Grand Crossing was being developed and the community was reaching out and recruiting developers for this, there really were no comparable projects in downtown Waterloo to kind of point to, and having comparable developments is really key when trying to secure funding or attract a developer. They're risk averse and they want to see that this concept will work in this market, so they look for other projects that have been successful. But Grand Crossing was one that had to kind of go out ahead of that, and what it did then is establish that market and establish that proof of concept so that art block could be developed as well. And I think that those are really connected in that way, where if it hadn't been for Grand Crossing proving that this type of housing product could work, art block might not have happened. Art block is a really great example of a catalytic site as well, but it's one that really elevates the architectural and design standards. It was created in a way that maximized its site and its location, giving, maximizing river views and creating amenities and things for its tenants that are really important in a modern development to attract and keep occupancy in there. So they've been very successful with that. And another thing that was probably helped establish art block in this location is the public investments into those spaces. So it's how cool to be in one of those units and have river views and be there when there's something happening at the amphitheater and you get to see all that activity. So having that private use adjacent to in the public space is a really great design and implementation of downtown planning. Both of these projects, just know, as I was saying, are examples of recruitment or developer recruitment. So the city and WDC and partners, they took a proactive approach. They saw the opportunity for redeveloping the Grand Crossing Hotel, and you don't just wait for a developer to come to you with a great idea, because in that case, you're either waiting a really long time or you have to take take what you can get with what the developer brings. Instead, and this has become a common practice for the city and the public-private partnership, is to conceptualize your own idea, create your own vision for a site or for your downtown, and go out there and find a development partner and make it happen. So these are two really successful examples of that. The TechWorks campus is kind of shifting again, maybe now to the broader employment goals and employment side of economic development and what can be included in a downtown. This is, probably one of the starkest, physical transformations of a site. What was once, iconic economic anchors of Waterloo in the state and the Midwest with these Deere factory buildings has transformed into a new space with that honors its history with the Deere Museum, but also looks forward into the future with TechWorks as a high-tech incubator, something that is pushing the envelope on advanced manufacturing, workforce training, and things that are going to have major impact on the region's economics. And then the Courtyard Marriott, a really key piece to having a modern and high quality city is having a hotel and hospitality space that can serve visitors and tourists to the area, but also be available to business travelers and others. So having a great place to stay is really important. So this is probably an example of taking the long view on redevelopment. This site was probably about a 15-year transformation process, and as you know, it's ongoing, and there's still more opportunity there. But from the donation and transfer of the Deere properties to the city and others, to the the remediation and the environmental improvement of the site, to creating a vision and then construction and all the things that have gone on there physically, it's probably at least 15-year process. So high quality redevelopment is not a short-term process. And I think the really important thing there is high quality. Poor quality is probably a much faster process, but that's not what you want in your community. So you need to be selective, even if it does slow down the process, or you just want to kind of wait out for that right idea, that right opportunity, and make sure that redevelopment is meeting your standards. So through this process, I just want to shout out to this and commend the city and the city's planning team for the really outstanding long-term relationships that they've established through this project and others, not only with the DEER team, but with state regulators and the US EPA, and the way that they have redeveloped this site is really incredible, and it has built them a really strong reputation with these groups, and it's something that has proved very impactful and very beneficial to the city, where they've received numerous grants for brownfield redevelopment, including just recently another $1 million in an EPA multi-purpose brownfield grant. So this process was one where the city was able, and its partnerships were able to demonstrate how well they can do redevelopment, and it's important that you establish those that track record, and it helps you be successful in the future. And then, specifically, TechWorks is kind of shifting over to that, a really incredible accomplishment for Waterloo and the Cedar Valley region as a whole. And if it hasn't already, TechWorks could probably be a presentation of its own, because there's so much there. But there was really strong leadership with Grow Cedar Valley and the TechWorks board and others that make the building successful, as well as the program and the tenants that are inside of it. So as I understand, it's fully occupied, and it was starting from scratch. So this is a huge accomplishment to be fully occupied. It's in the last year or two has attracted multiple federal investments for higher education and advanced workforce and research projects and opportunities. So just really great success there.
Grocery shopping.
But there's still a lot of redevelopment potential for the site, and just, in the future, its position in the downtown is really critical, because it makes some really important links to downtown, but also destinations like the Marina, Cattle Congress, River Road, and Sans Souci Island and things. So it's right in the heart of downtown in reality. So a very important site, and a lot accomplished there already. Okay, last two projects that I'll highlight here are the Cedar Valley Sportsplex. So this transformation and this project is really one with a true community focus. It really exemplifies the community involvement here. So prior to the Sportsplex, the highway, when it was put in, it bisected the community. It disconnected downtown even further. The river is sort of a natural disconnection, but the highway was one that further disconnected and segmented the community. So that's a challenge to overcome. It also creates a challenge for what kind of redevelopment can happen near it. Who really wants to have a highway, out their back door on a residential use? So over time, with those challenges, it was an area where there were a lot of maybe uses that were a bit inappropriate for the urban downtown, better suited for other areas like industrial parks, et cetera, businesses. And it wasn't the most attractive in an area where people didn't really want to spend time. And so if you have areas of your community that people avoid, it's probably an opportunity to take a look and see what is needed there and how could you address that. So city partners, WDC and the city, created a vision that was also really influenced and led by the Young family. They really spearheaded the development of this concept for a space that could support residents' physical and mental health and serve as a unifying community space, kind of in the way that YMCAs have done in the past, but taking a more community-owned approach to that. So there was a lot of leadership from a lot of segments of the community. I think that's really important to the success of this project. And just a really clear example of how that public-private partnership works. The partnership also really helped and stepped up in the funding of this project. So largely private funded through donations and local foundations stepping in. So you're bringing the community fully into the process of creating this space and funding the creation of this space, but also in the ownership of it after it was complete. And that, partnership has continued into the operation of the facility. So really advancing, again, multiple goals at once. And I think we can see where that type of approach helps things be successful. And probably this is another space where it's kind of hard to imagine Waterloo, without it, or downtown without it. So in the relatively short time that it's been in the community, has become sort of a destination and an identifier for downtown. And so the most recent one, and kind of finally highlighting kind of one of the newest projects, is the Waterloo River Lights experience. So the mayor and council and others were looking for a project that could unite both sides of the river. Excuse me. So as I was saying before, there's sort of a disconnection there with the river, kind of splitting the two sides of downtown. So looking for a project that could bring them together and unite rather than divide. So they brought in an international lighting artist, Rob Shakespeare, and created a project and envisioned a project that could really celebrate the community and be utilized and be sort of a living piece of art for downtown. I really love it on a few different levels, because I think there's sort of it's a bridge project. So it literally connects the two sides of the community project. So you get to build identity around it. And then it's the lighting and the nature of this sort of high-tech art is that it can adapt and be incorporated into a variety of celebrations in the community. So it can change to celebrate 4th of July and Irish Fest and other opportunities, and link to other projects across downtown. So the lighting of the convention center and the lighting of the bridge, are able to coordinate, as well as the lighting of the amphitheater and the river loop, and just the opportunities to connect all of this art and identifying space together is really incredible vision and kind of implementation of this concept, and was really successful. It is probably, already serving the purpose it was intended for. It's bringing people to downtown. I've heard of cases where people are staying downtown longer because they want to wait till dark to be able to see the light show, see the lights. So they're maybe frequenting businesses a bit more, or staying at restaurants and things a bit longer. So the even economic impacts of a project like this are present. This was again a public-private partnership example, with WDC and the city taking on significant investment, but also Blackhawk County Gaming Association and Mid-American Energy. So bringing in and getting creative to find ways to accomplish a goal like the river lights. So as you've heard me say a million times already, I think a key to the Waterloo success story is this public-private partnership. And it's not one single partnership, but there are some key players in that, with the city, with Waterloo Development Corporation, and then bringing in others as appropriate, as needed, and finding ways that the two groups work together really well, and where one group's strengths might help kind of cover another group's limitations, because between the public and private sectors, they're better suited to accomplish different types of things. So the partnership brings them together and finds a way to utilize both their strengths and sort of compensate for limitations. None of these projects could really be achieved with one group alone, whether it was only private sector approaching them or only the public sector. I don't think that transformative map would be as impactful if it wasn't for the partnership. So some advantages of it, it brings in leadership, because there's lots of different types of leadership from both public and private, and there's lots to learn when you bring public and private together. There's also, despite being from different sectors, a common community passion. Everybody involved in these projects loves Waterloo and wants to see Waterloo be successful. So that is critical to the partnership being successful, because at the end of the day, you have the same passion and you have the same goals. They're able to extend beyond the limits and of politics or administrations or terms and leadership that way. And with these two groups and these two influences, you really help set higher standards and start raising the standards of development in downtown. So I'll highlight 4 other keys to success in Waterloo that I think are present throughout the project examples that we've shown. One is that the community has a consistent vision. So we've got the downtown master plan. And again, that's something that transcends leadership, transcends changes. It's a singular vision that when you stick to that master plan, you can persevere through the changing markets. There's lots of things that you can't control, but when you have a consistent vision and a plan that you're executing on, you can stay focused and find the right opportunities within those changing markets and adapt to those sort of outside forces. Having a consistent vision also helps you kind of engage both public and private groups, or engage with the residents and things like that, because you can point to a plan and say, this is where we're headed, these are our goals, and this is why we need your help, or what we would like your help with. So that's a really important part of it. The other second thing is choosing catalytic projects. So investing in projects that spur more projects, choosing the right project at the right time. And so I think when we were talking about some of the residential opportunities and TechWorks and things like that, those are catalytic projects that spur more development, spur more investment, and have the opportunity to create new markets that are then setting up other developments for success. There's a focus on blight elimination, as I mentioned. So we work with our partners to really know the market, address the site's limitations, and make future-oriented either acquisitions or advancements of projects and concepts. And also, an opportunity to sort of be creative, be persistent, because there's, blight, both economic and physical are factors of a market and outside forces sometimes. So you have to kind of stay the course. And then finally, once again, the public-private partnership. So you're able to leverage more resources through a partnership, amplify the impact that your investments are having. And sometimes with a public-private partnership, you can advocate for the region in different ways, because your partnership has different networks and groups and influence in different areas. So having something like this can really bring outside attention to the community in a good way. And I think you've seen that with the success that you've had in attracting grants and funding and things like that. So with the time that we have left, just a few minutes, wanted to briefly look into the future a bit. We know how far we've come as a community that we've just highlighted, but we know that the mission is not complete. There's more work to be done. So going into the future, I think it's about continue to do what works. Continuing to focus on our goals and our focus areas, maintaining that focused vision, and keeping strong the existing partnerships strong, but also finding new ways to work with new partners. I think there's always opportunity for bringing in partners and bringing in the resources and ideas that they can leverage, and kind of staying engaged in raising the standard as Waterloo continues to advance. We want to be moving forward, and so we have opportunity to keep raising standards for our redevelopment. So some of the ways we look at the community with some redevelopment opportunities, this is sort of only a snapshot, but just opportunities for advancing projects and looking for, again, those opportunities that can be catalytic for future development. So lastly, just wanted to end with, as a urban planning nerd and somebody that, is very familiar, Daniel Burnham is basically like a patron saint of urban planning, and he did the plan of Chicago after the Great Fire. So he said that you make no little plans, they have no magic to stir men's blood. And I think that Waterloo is definitely an example of this. It's not a huge city, but that doesn't mean it should have small plans. It continues to have big plans for its future, a very ambitious vision, and it knows the work that needs to be done to achieve its vision. So I think they're kind of exemplifying Daniel Burnham's words here, and it's going to do that and accomplish its vision sort of the way that it does everything, with an eye towards unity, with serving the entire community, and with really strong public-private leadership. So from there, it's kind of the conclusion. I'm happy to take questions or have discussion, but just really appreciate the opportunity to share some of the accomplishments of downtown revitalization in Waterloo, and know that, there's more transformation to come as we continue to work into the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Meredith. I see we do have a couple of questions here. Dave, I see that you raised your hand. Did you want to ask a question or say something?
Yes, ma'am. Meredith, outside of what WDC has acquired on Sycamore between First and Mullen, everything that we presented today, it highlights everything on the west side. What is Vanderwall's commitment to trying to bring more development and enhancement to the east side or the other side of the river?
Sure. I think we look at downtown as a whole, and I can totally see where those maps appear a bit lopsided, and some of the investment has been primarily on the west side so far. There are some projects that weren't highlighted there in discussions, redevelopment opportunities. There's also been, it wasn't in the context of that photo, but there's been there was a Rath neighborhood plan and ongoing efforts in the Rath area and the way that extends along the east side of the river. And then we also work with the city on an initiative called the City Central Live Learn neighborhoods, which address Church Row neighborhood and Walnut neighborhood. So active in those spaces as well. So I think, continuing to look at both sides for sure into the future, with some already in progress or ongoing.
Thank you. Meredith, I saw on your last slide there that Waterloo Port Works was shown, and there was a recent local news article about that. Could you just give kind of a highlight vision of what that is and kind of the plans for that facility?
Sure. And I do know that Jim Miller from WDC is on the call as well. So Jim, if you want to jump in at any point, let me know. But as part of a sort of a long-term conversation with Vanderwall and WDC in the city, and part of the focus area of sports and recreation, have advanced the idea of an indoor sports tournament center, and something that can be a destination and serve both the community and attract tourism. So it is in the planning stages and an ongoing effort, but you've probably seen that there's, some site preparation out at the Courtworks that's, or excuse me, at the TechWorks area. And so it's in the planning stages, but something that we've, know that there is a real need not only in Waterloo, but in the region, and hopefully able to continue to advance that planning. Jim, I don't know if you want to add anything else.
Yeah, I'll just, chime in. We're working on the fundraising right now. There's several groups and organizations on this call that have been fantastic to work with. Blackhawk County Gaming, the Schweitz Foundation, the McElroy Trust, the City of Waterloo has made some financial commitments with the site preparation. So, and then the Young Family Foundation as well. So we're just short of 26 million in committed funding, working to get to 35 million to get this going and get construction started. And, we want this to be a hub for youth activity, get more kids involved in youth activities, which, benefits them later in life, increases their test scores and different things in school. And then also to have a significant economic impact here on the weekends by bringing tournaments in and bringing new revenue into the community.
That's great. Thank you. I know that's a project a lot of people are excited about. So I appreciate you giving kind of the overview of what that could look like for our community too. I know we're running short on time here, but we did have one question also about plans for grocery shopping. Is that something that's on your radar, Meredith? I know grocery shopping is a big Waterloo topic right now with one of our Hy-Vees closing, and we do have a new grocery store that opened downtown here. But can you just talk a little bit about, if that's involved in your plans at all, and maybe even just the importance of having those kinds of resources in a vibrant downtown?
Absolutely. I think that is a really important part of it. And I think, what we try and do is, I think having one close and just the changing markets is something that we're always looking at. What makes the most sense? What does the community need at this time? And what sites or locations or infrastructure is most appropriate for that use and that opportunity? And, should it be pursued now? All of those things there's just like multiple factors that are taken in when looking at redevelopment. And so hearing from the community too. I know that we have really great connections with city staff, with Mayor Hart, with leadership that are hearing from their constituents. But I think this is a great moment for us to hear about the interest in grocery shopping in downtown to kind of supplement and add on to the recent grocery investment in downtown. So I think sharing what you'd like to see is always part of planning as well. So I appreciate that feedback. I just make a note that, grocery shops, grocery stores and things are one of the more challenging commercial entities to attract, because they are one of those one of those businesses that are really looking at the community and the market and the immediate surrounding area of how much residential is in those areas. They have a lot of economic factors that they take into account when they select a site. So as well as, competition, they won't locate within so many miles of a competitor and things like that. So there are a lot of outside factors that go into attracting a grocery, but it's something to definitely keep in mind as a desire. So I appreciate the feedback and something to keep on the table, like I said, when looking for those areas where opportunity meets kind of those focus areas.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for all of the great information that you shared today. I really appreciate all that you presented, and even just a couple of kind of takeaways, I think, for all of us as community members is that it's easy to lose sight of the progress, right, when you're living in it day to day. So it's interesting to hear about, people that come back after a number of years and how they really can see that change when we're just used to seeing it slowly over time. And that it is a long game too, this kind of revitalization and transformation doesn't happen overnight. And so it's really a long-term investment. It's a long game. And I just appreciate you saying those things out loud too, because I think those are good reminders for all of us, when sometimes we can be our own community's worst critic, right?
Absolutely.
Things
Yep.
are always happening more slowly than what we sometimes want, but that really great things are happening, and appreciate the part that you've played in that in our city, and all of the partners that have really invested the time, the money, the energy into all of this too. And just appreciate you joining us today, Meredith. And thank you to everybody who joined us as a participant as well. We will be sharing the recording of this presentation, so feel free to share that with your contacts. It'll be on social media and in your inbox as well here in the next few days. And I hope that you'll join us again next month for our next Windows on Waterloo. It will be Wednesday, August 7th, again at 11 a.m. And we will be hearing an update from Waterloo Fiber about their progress and what we can expect as a community from them too. So thank you all again for being here. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and month, and we'll see you next time.